inspirational, motivational, sometimes confrontational. Purpose of this podcast, uplift, help every man and woman utilize their gifts. Hey, I'd like to welcome you all back to the Radiant Power Podcast. I'm your host, Ray, and we got a few things to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into it. I haven't recorded in about a week. I think the last day was the 6th or 7th, and today is the 14th. So it's about that time to record. I've been rather busy taking care of some things, moving family members around, so on and so forth. So we'll talk about a little bit of that. So let's see. We got the 4th of July. That just happened. Sure did. I recently had surgery, minor surgery. I was woke the whole time. Felt a little a little pain. And of course, had to recuperate after that. So your boy is good. I'm here. We'll talk about riding bikes. My son, he's on a mission trip right now. My daughter, she's at a camp, and my wife is also out on business. So you just got me. It's just me. It's not a bad thing. Let's see, what else? Had to drop my wife's car off, and then I walked back. I got 2 AC furnace replacements. We won't get into how much that costs. We'll just say it's important to be warm in the winter and cool in the summer. And what else? I went to network with some DJs because that's also a passion I have. And that went well. And watched this show called The Lincoln Lawyer. I think it's on Netflix. Yeah. It's a series about a lawyer who drives out his Lincoln. I won't say any more about it. You have to watch it. It's a pretty decent show. So anyway, what will we talk about first? How about surgery? So what kind of surgery? I had what they call a lipoma, which is, I guess, excess fat tissue or whatnot, just up under your skin. So I went and they shot me with I was about to say Novocaine. It's not Novocaine. It reminded me of that song. Anesthesia. Yeah, I guess local anesthesia to make sure you don't feel pain in that area. They took him out. The biopsy came back negative. So, of course, happy about that. That's great. So an encouraging thing or encouraging word of advice for you all is, if you see something, say something. In other words, if something's not right in your body, don't wait. I know us as males, we put it off. We wait and we wait and we don't go to the doctor because why? I'm healthy. I'm a guy. Man, I'll be all right. It's just a flesh wound. So, yeah, definitely do that. On my journey, one of the things I'm working with is growing, becoming a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. A few days ago, before my family all went on their respective trips, I had a chance to ride bikes, courtesy of my beautiful wife. She bought them all for us as a family. And on this particular day, I knew it was going to rain. It was going to thunderstorm. And so I said, hey, look, we only need to go out this far. This is what we're going to do. And because it's going to rain, so we got to get back. We got to be back within the hour. And we did not. I let my wife go in front, children in the middle. And then, of course, I was bringing up the rear. And she didn't go where I thought she should go based off of my previous conversation. Maybe she forgot. I don't know. But then I was thinking in my brain, like, is this okay? And I had to say, yeah, you know what? If we get wet, so be it. And it felt good to let go. Many times in life, we hold on to things, anger, frustration, resentment, disappointment. It can go on and on, but we hold on to things. And I decided to let it go. Once I decided to let it go, as in saying, I don't care if we get wet or not. It's not even my concern. Que sera, que sera. What will happen will happen. And I was able to enjoy my bike ride. And it was good. Hadn't been bike riding in a long time. So it was time for us to get the bikes. We got them. And now we're riding and having a good time as a family. Getting a little exercise. So a lot of benefits happening. But the best benefit by far for me is mentally realizing that you cannot control everything. You cannot control people. You can't even control situations. I mean, to a point, you can control what you do, how you act, how you react and respond, and then your thought process behind all of the things that are happening. And so I'm happy to say that I was pretty calm and collective about it. So that's to my benefit, and I'm just putting it out there that we all should be growing and evolving in who we are as individuals. So that was great. So anyway, my son, yep, he's on a missions trip, which is pretty cool, to go out and minister to other people in need. A lot of times we have our own needs. We think that they aren't being met. And I have learned that sometimes you just need to serve other people. And then in the process, your needs will be met, or you won't even remember the issue or the problems that you had. So all good lessons going around. Like I said, my wife, she's on a business trip, and my daughter is also in camp. So it's just me. And it is nice to just sit and reflect. It is nice to sit and watch a show without anybody saying anything. It's awesome. Of course, I got a dog, so I got to take care of the dog. And that's fine. So anyway, things are going good. Well, let's see, I had to drop my wife's car off. So my background, like I said before, I was in the military, and I recall many years ago saying that I was going to run a marathon, and I did it. I just woke up and said, you know what? I'm going to run this marathon, and I did it. And I mean, that's sort of true. I mean, I didn't run the whole thing. That's another story for a different day. But on this particular day, I had to drop my wife's car off. And what did I do? I got one of those spontaneous ideas, and I'm very spontaneous. I said, you know what? I'm going to walk back. I'm just going to drive there and walk back. So, yeah, I could have asked somebody for help. I didn't want to. This was a challenge for myself. So what did I do? Drove there, dropped it off. A regular routine thing that needed to be done. To be honest, I could have waited. I said, nah, where's the fun in that? And I began to walk back. I walked 12 miles. Let that sink in, 12 miles. Some people say, yeah, I do that in my sleep. I do that every day. I don't. Even in my military career, I wasn't walking 12 miles every day. Yes, we did PT, physical training, push-ups, sit-ups, run, sometimes swim, depending upon where you were at, pull-ups, any number of things. 12 miles walking? No. But I challenged myself. I did it. And when I got home, my body told me, yeah, you did it. But there'll be a little pain on the backside. And it was. And I'm all healed up. I'm all better. It just took, one night to recover. And now I'm back to normal. It was great. I actually picked the car up, and they had to do some routine things to it, factory recall type stuff. And the car is in perfect condition. And before you ask, no, I did not walk all the way back to pick the car up. I said, nah, I feel good about what I already did. So I did that. Let's see, what else? 2 ACs, air conditioning, condensers, and furnaces. Yes, we won't talk about the cost of it. We will just say that it is nice to be cool when it's hot, and it's nice to be warm when it's freezing. And where I live, it gets real cold. So I'm happy that that is done. Other things I'd like to do in the house, we'll get to it soon enough. One of my proud moments is actually going to see some DJs actually spin some tunes. I love music 100% unequivocally, and I had an opportunity to go check them out and network, rub elbows, so to speak, and that was real good. So I look forward to doing more of that in the future. That is kind of how I was raised. When I say raised, I mean my mom told me that I was beating on my crib as a baby, making beats. And then I grew up, wanting to play drums. And I did that. Not to the degree of perfection of what somebody like myself might want, but nonetheless, can I get on the set, on the trap, and handle the business? Man, for sure. So anyway, music is in my DNA. It's in my blood. I love it. So it was good to get out, network, listen to some music. I was listening to house music. Fantastic. So, and those guys have major skills. And so I'm happy to be in that space because it's a space that I love and brings me joy. I'd encourage you all, if you're out there, do something that you love. Life is too short. Tomorrow is not promised. So why not do something that you love to do? And in it, you will find sweet joy. Oh, yes. And happiness. Like when I went, I was elated. I showed up. I was the first person at the event. Go figure that. Hey, they said show up at such and such time. I did. And then I realized I'm not there for anybody else. I'm just there for me. And it ended up being good. I actually saw my old minister of music. She was passing through. So we got to talk, chop it up a little bit. So anyway, life is good. Life is great. To be honest, life is what you make it. Life can be dismal, abysmal, sad, or it can be outstanding. It's all about your perspective and your perception of things, events, and people. Anyway, so shout out to DJs everywhere, rocking the ones and twos on the MIC, making it happen. Let's see. What else? News in the news. So I pulled this up. It's CNN and Fox, because I know whoever listens to the podcast, you may lean liberal or conservative. I personally don't care. I lean to the side of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, not to a specific party. So in CNN, there's an article, House passes defense bill after adopting controversial amendments targeting abortion policy and other issues. For sure, we could get into the other issues, but what did I want to pull up and talk about? Oh, the House voted until nearly midnight on Thursday night, and today is Friday, July 14th. It says dealing with a slew of amendments, including adopting a controversial provision eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and staff in the Department of Defense. A tough pill to swallow for Democrats and a win for conservative hardliners. Representative Ralph Norman, a Republican from South Carolina, offered the measure that would eliminate all Pentagon DEI programs and personnel. In dramatic fashion, the amendment initially failed 216 to 216, but was considered again and passed 214 to 213. So, wow. Eliminating DEI programs in the DOD. I'll be honest, I don't know what those programs entail and who it affects. I am not sure, but I'm sure there will be some reverberations about it. in lieu of the Supreme Court and affirmative action, right? North Carolina, University of North Carolina, and Harvard, and the college admissions, and reversing that decision, making affirmative action unconstitutional. I thought that there would be momentum to knock out or wipe out DEI programs. And there we go, right there. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Fox News. Fox News says the House on Friday narrowly passed the annual defense policy bill, as most Democrats opposed the legislation that Republicans championed as a way to roll back the administration's woke, it has it in quotes, Pentagon policies. Woke. Interesting. The National Defense Authorization Act, normally a bipartisan bill, passed in a 219 to 210 vote after just 4 Democrats voted yes, matching the 4 Republicans who voted against it. Most Democrats rejected the bill due to controversial amendments that would curb the Pentagon's abortion travel reimbursement policy, transgender medical care, and diversity, equity, inclusion programs throughout the military. So if there's anything that I'm learning to understand is that there are movements and other things that get thrown on the top of original movements like the civil rights movement. And now you see a lot of things happening with LGBTQ plus yada yada that kind of ride the coattails of the civil rights movement. Right or wrong, not here to discuss that at this moment. I'm sure at some point we'll get into it. But it's simply to say that maybe there are some things that are worth keeping. Look, I pulled up something else. So I decided to go because I wanted to add common sense to the conversation. And I was concerned that by getting rid of the affirmative action that helps African Americans because of the disadvantage that we had because of the way the country was structured upon its inception, that we aren't necessarily where we need to be, where we can do away with affirmative action. And I'm sure that there are several people that stand on any side of the coin, and I'm ready to listen and hear and learn along the way. My take on it is, man, we just got rid of segregation, civil rights. So is it too soon to get rid of affirmative action? Like, have African Americans, Black folk, have we really arrived in the country? And what I hear sometimes are, well, we had our first Black president, which is funny because when they said Black, I was thinking to myself, well, isn't he Black and white? So, you have to think like that, or I think like that, not just going along with what everybody is saying. But yes, I mean, for intent and purposes, I would say that first Black president, first Black/white president, right? Because his mom was white. But we only had one. It's not like we had a slew of minority presidents. And right now, I know we have a vice president who is not just African American, but African American and I believe Indian, if I'm not mistaken. And I could be. So fact check me. Let me know. But either way, how many Supreme Court personnel do we have? Thurgood Marshall, right? 1. Clarence Thomas, 2. Ketanji, 3. Okay. Is it enough over the course of how long we've been living here in America to now do away with affirmative action? And I understand the logic that says, well, affirmative action is now hurting other groups. And that's not good. We don't want any groups to hurt. So, you know what I was thinking? I was thinking maybe there should be quotas for each ethnic group that is out there. Why not? If we are, if there is a group of people, a demographic that says we are going to be, um, the system will be unfair to us, then the only way to make it fair, when you talk about fair, is okay, you get 20, you get 20, you get 20. And then when you think about that, you say, no, because black people are only 14% of the population. Okay, so let's use that math. If black people are 13, 14% of the United States of America, and Latin America is XX, Asians are whatever the number is, whatever all of these percentages are, wouldn't it make sense to, based off of the percentages, say this is how many quotas or the number of people that should be allowed to attend these universities? And let's just say, for instance, if there were 100 African Americans that should be going to Harvard and only 90 applied, and understand, it's not just, well, I just get to apply so I get to go. No, you obviously have to meet all of the other requirements. But now you're there and you're in. And it's not pitting one person against another person. It now is saying within this group of allotted billets, we have the number of people that we need necessary. And then if you don't get that number, then you can give those quotas, billets away to another group. Problem solved. And it may be more in depth and require more thought than that, but that's what I'm thinking as I go into it. I was reading the Library of Law from Howard University. It says a brief history of civil rights in the United States. After the Civil War, there was a period from about 1865 to 1877 where federal laws offered observable protection of civil rights for former slaves and free blacks. It wasn't entirely awful to be an African American, even in the South. However, starting in the 1870s, as the Southern economy continued its decline, Democrats took over power in Southern legislatures and used intimidation tactics to suppress black voters. It was Democrats, not Republicans. People need to know their history. Tactics included violence against blacks, and those tactics continued well into the 1900s. Lynchings were a common form of terrorism practiced against blacks to intimidate them. It is important to remember that the Democrats and Republicans of the late 1800s were very different parties from their current iterations. And it goes on and on and on and on. The era of Jim Crow laws saw a dramatic reduction in the number of blacks registered to vote within the South. This time period brought about the great migration of blacks to northern and western cities like New York City, Chicago, and Los Angeles. In the 1920s, the Ku Klux Klan experienced a resurgence and spread all over the country, finding a significant popularity that has lingered to this day in the Midwest. So, why am I reading all of that, and what does that mean? My wife has grandmothers, and they have reached 100 years of age. Congrats. That's beautiful. That's long life. And that long life is granted by, I believe, God. So, that thing, the article I just read, said the 1920s. So if you just did 100 years, 1920, okay, then that would be 2020, right? I mean, I have to think I'm doing math right. 1920, so 2020, which is 3 years ago. So that's 100 years. You're telling me that my grandmothers were living when the Ku Klux Klan was doing all kinds of abominable things. So grandmothers had children, which would be our mothers and fathers, and they had to experience segregation and Jim Crow. And so it's really only in our parents' lives and really our lives, like 2 generations, if you want to even call them that we have or should have upward mobility. And you can't have that if you don't have the systems in place for that to happen. And obviously, America didn't have that in place. So what do we do and where do we go from here? I don't know. I don't know that affirmative action, getting rid of it, was the way to do it. So we'll see. But I'll be reading up on it and keeping my ear to the ground, understanding what that all means for us. Shout out, salute to all the veterans out there, all the first responders, police, firemen. It is these professions where people put their lives on the line every day to keep people safe. And much respect to all walks of life, all people. My next podcast is going to talk about affirmations. It's something I've never done in my life. If you don't know what an affirmation is, we'll talk about it on the next episode. It is, I have now found out, important to do affirmations. So we'll talk about that. Affirmations versus limiting beliefs. Maybe delve into a little mental health on the next episode. I look forward to seeing you all and have a great day. Remember, this is the podcast where anything and everything can and will be used as a lesson. Hopefully we learn the lesson so we don't have to keep repeating the lessons over and over again. All right, y'all, be chill. Over and out.